Hey, welcome to the Profit Engine Show. I am your host, Matt Coffey. We talk about all things related to building profit engines for your business through digital marketing. I've successfully built a 7-figure agency. Practice Bloom is our medical side. Customer Bloom is our standard side. We are here to help you get educated on the things that have made us successful, made our clients successful, and will make you successful. So stay tuned for this podcast where we'll go through case studies and strategy and all things related to help grow your business.
All right, so this is a demonstration of some of the things that we're doing in the med spa space with a particular client, and it's really indicative of the power of, I think, multi-location, multi-ownership, sort of trying to create organization out of chaos. Because what happens is that when you have a lot of different people on a team, you have a lot of leads coming through different locations. How do you organize it? So we're going to talk about that today with Chase. Chase, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
So we're going to walk through Profit Engine's multi-location, multi-lead form, multi-owner today. So if you are a business that has this scenario where you've got a couple of locations, or even if you have more than one location, or if you have more than one person running your lead management, this is a good thing for you to see because it has all the different interior components to monitor per location, per owner lead flow. And that's what people who have come to us, and this is one particular case, it's not the only case where we've run into this before, but it is certainly going to be helpful for those people who want to organize their lead flow and lead pipelines and have a way to sift through the data, especially from an owner. And that's really what this ends up being from an ownership level. So let's talk about this example and how this came to be. So why don't you take it from here, Chase?
Sure. So we're looking at a white labeled version of Profit Engines set up for a franchise. And so we're looking at a couple of different locations within the master account. So when you log in, this would be sort of the corporate level dashboard where you can see all of the accounts listed here and then hop into one of the specific ones with sort of a master access. So also very interesting if you have, let's say, a call center or somebody responsible for managing leads across locations, which we actually think is a pretty great idea. They could sit at this sort of bird's eye view and be getting notifications from the different location accounts. And so basically this up here is the notification indicator. And there's nothing here for me because my personal user isn't tagged as, being a part of each of the sub accounts. But if it were, this would fill up with notifications from the different sub accounts, and clicking on one would take me straight into that conversation within the location account. So this is sort of next level when we talk about like this challenge that we see from an agency level, which is, hey, we're generating you all these leads. Why aren't they closing? And when we start digging in, we see that, these people aren't trained to be sales people. They're the front desk person at a med spa in this case, with no sales training at all. So what we're saying is, hey, well, why don't we get you a salesperson that sits not at a front desk, but in an office somewhere with a bird's eye view of all of your locations. She sees all of the in and works them all for each location by jumping in and out. So let's jump into one real quick. So just take an idea of what that might look like.
Yeah, so we're showing a subset of the location. So you could also even separate this to regional, and there's so many things you could do, but the real challenge, as you said, how are people reacting and getting to the leads as fast as possible? And I think that's where the big question comes up, and communicating with the leads when they want to be addressed. So let's take you through this real quick.
Sure. So part of what we do with this that's so cool is it takes a lot of pressure off that person in the immediate. So basically we build automations here that says, okay, as soon as a lead is generated, somebody put their name, email, phone into a form, run this automation. So we see after 0 minutes or automatically, instantly, a text message goes out that says, thanks for claiming the offer, puts in their name. The next step's to book a consultation, give us a call or do this. Then the system will wait 2 minutes. If they didn't reply to the text, it will then send this email, same messaging in the email. Then the system waits 2 minutes. Then, this is really cool. 5 minutes later, if the person hasn't replied to the text or the email, the system will actually call the person responsible for managing the leads, and a robot will say, hey, you have a new lead from Jane Smith. Press 1 to connect with them. And if that person pushes 1, it's going to dial the lead and bridge the call. So that's a really cool way to force your staff to be getting on the phone with people, which is interesting. Then the system's going to wait a day, and if the lead hasn't replied to any of the emails, any of the texts, the phone call, it's going to send an email. Then another day, et cetera, and then all the way down until this last step, which is also pretty cool, is it actually pushes a voicemail to their phone. So it's a pre-recorded message that your phone buzzes and says you have a voicemail, but you never actually got a call. So this all happens automatically. So through this, we see a huge percentage of leads will automatically take that next step, which is in most campaigns that we run, requesting a day and time for a consultation via the online date picker. And that's where we want that person to manually jump in and really, focus their efforts.
Yeah, and that's the key, right? It's the process of having the human sort of confirm things after.
And this might help tie that together. So basically, when someone fills out a form, they fall into this new lead column automatically. They pop up. If they reply to those texts or emails, the conversation gets sucked into a pane like this, where you can go back and read everything, but then they also automatically get moved into the hot lead column. Once they request their consultation, they automatically get moved into consultation requested column. So the system does a lot of the work for you, and we really tee it up for the person where it's like, hey, all you have to do is get them on the phone, let them know you're confirming their day and time, and then make sure that they show up.
Yeah, and this doesn't have to necessarily just be a med spa. It could be anything. I mean, it could be any medical product. It could be any business. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all the same stuff. What we're experimenting with is also some survey strategy in here, so that when someone is interested, and again, people coming off the internet are not 100% sold. They're interested, especially if they're coming from social. So we're trying to build in funnel strategies with surveys to get them more emotionally engaged behind the lead, so they get an offer and they want to get something, whatever that might be, whatever that offer might be, and then you follow them up with a survey with either an upsell or a cross-sell to give them another opportunity to say, oh, I'll take that additional offer, cross-sell offer opportunity. And then they by doing that, in order to get that, they have to go through a survey that gives them a set of questions that relates to whatever pain or whatever service they're looking at, and kind of magnifies either the pain points in the case of a medical, or magnifies the needs they have in regular business, so that they actually go through a step-by-step diagnosis in the case of a medical, of kind of like self-administering their own understanding of what is impacting their life, or in a business it might be what's challenging them to move forward with whatever challenge they're looking at. That type of stuff, now when you look at it and start the automation of starting emotionally curing people through, and that's a good word, and I don't mean curing as in solving, but curing as in, curing them as in meat. Like it gets them more focused in on their issue that you can resolve for them. And by the time that they show up in this, when they come in, all that data is going to be in there. And that's what's really fun, is now you've got a preset person with a bunch of data that you can read through and go, okay, these are the 10 things this person has already told me about it. So then when the person does contact them, they've got all this data to support the call. So it's fascinating, how far we've gotten into this technology, that we really are starting to peel back layers of emotional content along with a need or analysis or even a pain point that we've got through an offer. So it's culminating, I think, a bunch of things that really make sense to sort of get to a broken clock theory, which is that even if they come through the funnel and you don't touch them and you don't talk to them and they book themselves, by the time that they show up, you'll actually have all this data in front of you, like a self-diagnosis, which would be fantastic.
And technology-wise, it's cool that we're tying it all together in one system now. So basically what we're looking at here is an actual survey builder where you can build those slides. So it's like, hey, you claimed the promotion. Great. You picked a day and time. Great. Do you want $100 extra thing or a free gift or whatever? Yes, I do. Okay, great. Now you're getting these questions in a slide. Like, how long have you been feeling that pain? Oh, like 3 years. Like, and has it been really hard on your family? Yeah, it has. And like you're saying, you're psychologically, walking them further down the path of, yes, I need to do this. And that's all tied into one system. So we can see, if we go back to the opportunities pipeline, like where they are in that process. People can manually jump in if they want, but the automation is going to do its thing to move a big percentage of them all the way through to where you want them without your staff even really having to get involved. So, I mean, we've made a quantum leap forward in the past 2 years.
Well, I think in the way that when you start to run, especially Facebook and Instagram, you get a lot of tire kicker / ready to listen, but not ready to commit. And I don't mean it in a bad way. They're not tire kickers, meaning that they're eventually going to come through the market somewhere. But the question is where they are in their life cycle. They're at the top of the funnel, right? They're at the top of the whole decision-making chain. They've seen you, they've driven by, they looked in the window. But now if you can get them engaged emotionally, you might be able to pull more of those through because you could actually get them to commit. And another thing that might be interesting, and we're experimenting with a lot of these things, is starting to think through personalization and sending out personalized emails so we've even thought through the process of sending out video emails to people as part of the strategy where you can start to introduce yourself. In fact, I've noticed it become more popular where even taking a picture with a person's name held up, like it's just fascinating when you start to really like engage with someone and they're like, oh, there's a human being here. Yeah. And it only takes a few seconds. But
that's a really good point. And I can show you technologically what that looks like really quickly. The system has become so flexible now where we can basically insert a webhook. So a webhook is a way to communicate out with other systems. So if you want to add in a next level tool like Bonjoro, like you mentioned, where you can basically, we can tie it in with webhooks so it says, hey, when it gets to this stage, notify this staff member to open up the Bonjoro app where the person's contact will be waiting, and all they have to do is hit record. Hey, Matt Coffey, we're so excited you claimed our promotion. We can't wait to see you. Look, there's Dr. Bob. He's working on somebody right now. Doesn't the office look beautiful? Great. Like it looks like you picked tomorrow at 5. We'll see you then. Boom, it goes out automatically. The automation goes to the next step. It's really incredible what we can do these days if we have a client willing to put in the effort.
Yeah, and part of it in these multi-locations with this franchise that we're dealing with, I think the biggest equation to support them is break fix from the top level. So when we start working with multi-location tenants who have got a lot of moving parts in the business, maybe new people are coming into the business, maybe there's a new hire, maybe there's so many pieces that you have to manage, and transferring ownership of leads from one person to the next, like all that stuff is capable now, even from a top level, transitional ownership between maybe a manager to a sub-manager, like you can just reassign all the leads to someone if someone leaves. Like all of that stuff becomes important, especially from someone who's overseeing it, because what they really want is they want to find where the pain points for the business are. So if one of the organizational locations is not performing very well, they can go in and do a diagnostic by just opening up and seeing where the breakages are and listening to the inbound phone calls or listening to the outbound phone calls or looking at the text messages going back and forth. In fact, we found one the other day with one of our clients where we saw a text message that someone came in and said, hey, I want this procedure done. And the person said, okay, how about Tuesday? Like there wasn't any call to action to say, okay, let's get you booked at Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Is that going to be like, we have to actually go in and retrain even our clients to think through even text message etiquette for closing clients. Because what happens is, without a directive from the person who's trying to commit the person to an appointment, you go through these so many dialogues, because the text messaging now is so prevalent.
Yeah, and like, so you mentioned, if you assign people, you'll see their face assigned to the opportunity. So this practice only has one person managing everything, but you can envision this being different people. And when you're at the campaign level, if you set multiple people, you can actually, in the config, you can add multiple people here, and the system will actually round robin them. So as the leads come in, it will assign them sequentially through whoever the staff members are. And then, like you said, you can go into those conversation chains, and it's like, there's no more excuses at that point. We were looking at one an hour ago. I was on a call, and I'm looking at it going, well, hey, this person asked you about pricing at 10:55 this morning. It's almost 5 o'clock. They haven't gotten a reply yet. So what's going on there? And once you can see that kind of stuff, it's just, night and day.
Well, and that's the whole point, is that's why these systems now, if you own a business and you're not installing a really strong communications platform between you and your potential prospects, you're just taking money and throwing it out the window. In fact, you're taking wheelbarrows full of money and just dumping it in the river, because that's what's happening, is that the clients are just going elsewhere. While you're deciding whether or not you want to make your hot chocolate for the morning, they've gone and found somebody else. And so, but if you're getting dinged, and so that's the one thing about these, we say getting dinged, because we have this set up so that either your phone gets ring when you get a lead, that you call, that press 1 to talk to the lead, right? So that's sort of forcing it. That's a little strong, but more likely is that you're getting a text message that there is a new inbound lead, and that's what most people want, is they just want to know, like, when something's in. And that's the key. It's responsibility goes right back to the owner.
I actually think it's pretty cool. The way that we do it, when a new lead is generated, we send out an email and a text that says, hey, you got a new lead, but don't worry, you don't have to do anything right now because the automation is running. And then they get another one when the person replies and says, hey, there's a new hot lead. Now you need to get in there and do something.
Yeah, right. Sure.
But with like webhooks, we could, you could buy a siren and put it on your desk, and we could tie to it through Zapier, and the light could go off every time you have a reservation. You know what I mean? It's endless, the things that we could do.
Great. Well, and again, we're here to help foster a better relationship strategy between new prospects and your business. So, certainly we could work through any of these dialogues with anybody on any business level. It doesn't have to be a med spa. This works for, we have, a water company, we've got a Kairos, we've got anybody, we've got everybody under the sun using this type of technology, because this is where the business of the internet is going, is to real-time communication. And that's what's happening with these platforms, is that we're trying to encourage people to see that the reality is that this is not an email to your email box and by 3 o'clock you go check your emails. This is like, look, the person's hot. It's time. The zero moment of truth, which Google put out a couple of moments ago, or to us, it seems like a couple of moments ago, it's probably about a year ago. But really, that talked about when people are in that model where their head is in, that's the time to start to work with them. So great, Chase. Thanks so much. And we'll do another one of these episodes quickly down the path of even a larger extent of this tool, because I think we can't really cover all of the things that this has in one shot. It's just so extensive, and I'm glad that we got at least through this thing, because this is coming up, and it's good for everybody to see the inside of real working models. This is real clients with real data doing real things, and of course we appreciate everybody who's engaged and on our side to help build these structures out.